So let me talk about Richard Ramirez for a while. Now, Richard Ramirez was programmed to do what he did through a similar process. If you review his case, there is an incident that happened at a hotel room in where they said Ramirez went into a hotel room that a woman was in when her husband went out to get something to eat or something. He proceeded to try to rape the woman. The husband came home in the nick of time, beat Ramirez up. He was arrested, and then they dropped the charges so he could get back out of prison, I guess. So this was all a process here. Now my guess is that the same thing that they were doing to me, they were doing to him. And they had a woman positioned at that hotel that probably gave Richard some subliminal suggestion that she was interested in him. It could have been something as little as her bobbing her eyebrows and gesturing with her head toward the door, or rolling her eyes behind the guy's back or something. But anyway, I would bet anything that this is what happened. She gave him the idea that she was interested in him, and when he went into the room, she began to scream or go crazy, and then the guy jumped in there and beat the hell out of him, and he was arrested. So that put in his mind that women were teases, women were not to be trusted, women were something to be feared or hated because they're vindictive, and set him all up. So if that's something that women were going to do to him, maybe he should go and be the same way to women. And if he wanted something from a woman, maybe he should be a stalker, stalk the woman, rape the woman. So that was a kind of a program or a training session that would get Richard Ramirez into that state of mind. All right, so the second week of December 2012, as I was just driving, I drove over to the ocean, and as I was walking along past the concession stand, I would say approximately 45-year-old, mildly attractive blonde lady walked by me bobbing her eyebrows. As she walked into the woman's restroom, she was bobbing her eyebrows and gesturing, "Hey, I got a good idea. Let's go into the woman's bathroom together," What type of crazy person would follow a chick into the woman's restroom? So the best thing to do, if you think a woman's hitting on you, be like, "Are you hitting on me?" But you can't be hyper aware and then take subliminal direction from the plants like this. You can't. It's stalker stuff. Now, I'm loyal to my wife, first. But second, I'm not going to follow some chick into the woman's restroom. You know what would happen then, right? She's a CIA plant. I follow her into the woman's restroom, and oh my God, is she going to scream bloody murder, right? And who's going to come to the rescue? Huh? The CIA plant's going to come to the rescue for her. And it's all going to be a program. So this is the type of stuff that they do. To program the sexes against one another. Now that same day, I ignored her, of course. If whatever, I would just be direct. If I thought a chick was hitting on me, I'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? Wanna go make out in the car or something?" Anyway, that same day, I walked past the concession stands, ignored the lady who was trying to get me to follow her into the woman's bathroom, got into my car, and lo and behold, an old Vatican agent. He looked like the poltergeist guy. God is in, his holy temple, right? It's that guy, spitting image of that guy. I had seen him crawling around the Arboretum, trying to get my attention over there, but I ignored him while I was busy in my work, because they're never direct. It's always subliminal. It's always hand gestures, or I'm going to try to get your attention, or this and that. I just ignore them and do my work. And they don't know how to react to that. It's the same guy. I'm getting in my car. He comes driving up in a carriage, right, with a white horse, waving at me as he's cruising by. I believe I gave him the finger, and I got in the car and I left. But this brings to mind what I think George Bush said. I quote George Bush. He goes, if the public knew what they were doing, the CIA was doing with their taxpayer money, they would have the whole CIA strung up at a lamppost by dawn. Could you believe that? If they used taxpayer money to secure a freaking carriage and a horse so they could play this little game in a program? It was the same guy I saw out there. What's the chances? The same guy seen crawling around the Arboretum is now at the same ocean, at the same beach place I'm at, cruising by trying to get my attention with a horse and a freaking carriage. It's absurd. So the program goes on to essentially instill fear and hate of the opposite sex, an unattainable woman. And so what do homosexuals end up doing? If they're missing this woman, if they can't find this woman, if all the women in the agency around them hate them, essentially they have to become that woman that they're missing in their life. So that, along with the implants, and I kind of discussed about the implants, will cause people to become homosexual. So they do a lot of this for control. A lot of people who are very intelligent undergo this program, and I think it's the Greys and Drax way so that intelligent people will not reproduce with other intelligent people and have intelligent offspring. Because I don't mean to be prejudiced, even if it's reverse prejudice, but a lot of people say that homosexuals are very intelligent people. They're articulate, they're well educated, they're creative people. So why would someone like that be targeted for a program? Also, there's a lot of programming like this rampant throughout Hollywood and the music industry due to the fact they can control these people better, because they found a lot of stars in the past would fall in love, have children, and they don't want to become a star anymore. They don't want to go on the road anymore. They want to do what every human being wants to do, and that is to be home with their family and loved ones. That's the meaning of life. Without your family and loved ones, there's really nothing out there. And it's rough going on tour and always being on the stage. So they learned to cause this program on people they wanted to keep in the business and to control them. So with the budget cuts at work, they were saying that, start taking less hours at work. So I went from like a 40 or 50 hour work when I was still involved with completing that construction project to working about 20 or 30 hours a week. So I drove around just to go see the sights. I like to go to different, like to the ocean. I like to go on different hiking trails, lakes, rivers. And I began to notice that there was packs of cars that would basically attempt to bully or guide me off the road. And one situation I remember in particular, I went down to a crossroads. I started to get onto like Route 110. And I said, you know what? I already did this route, Let me turn around and go down Route 114. So I started to turn around in the parking lot, and all these cars swerved in around me. And a guy jumped out of the car like he was a cop or something, like he was going to take me into custody. And I basically just stepped on the gas and I swerved out of the parking lot. So I guess that what they do is that they were expecting me to drive around while deploying this electromagnetic energy oscillator into the car until I got basically hazy enough to not know what I'm doing and then be taken into custody. So like I said, I tore out of the parking lot and I continued driving. And at some point I noticed that there was this endless group of people that were highly demon possessed. Some looked so bad that they looked like they were de-evolving. And I'm not trying to make fun of them, but they looked highly handicapped. They looked mentally retarded. Only their eyes weren't right. Their eyes were like furious. Their eyes were insane looking. And I guess this is a way to try to plant people. And they started getting worse and worse people. The more I resisted, they started getting more and more people that were highly demon possessed. So I realized that as I encountered these people, whether walking or driving, not only would I intercept their conscious projection, and if you remember, a trained witch could project his or her demonic consciousness or a class 1A macrobe, and that's part of their spell, to set up a communication between them and the target. That's what they trade their spirit for, these kind of gray projections that could manipulate others in a sophisticated form of mind control. So I was not only intercepting these conscious projections, these class 1A macrobes, but sometimes I would intercept their whole primary plant or demon infestation. And so I was exorcising a great deal of these people, and these Dracs and demons were hitting me instead of them. And I was happy to do this, and especially for the children. So I began to see that this was happening. I could see the people would go from looking very possessed and evil to more normal looking. And what was strange is as this demon was, or Drac was pulled out of them, you should see how their eyes would blink, and just their expression on their faces, and I would be hit. It would feel like this energy, this but it had mass to it. It was like being hit by a poltergeist. You could feel the energy hit you, and it felt like a pulsating blob, like hitting your body. And it would try to jack control me, but I would fight it and annihilate this energy.